We get how uncertain the future is. We've come of age in a complex world, face to face with problems we didn't create. So what's going to happen next? We are. Because our future is the future. So we're going to build bridges and hospitals in a day and feed those left in the cold. We're going to do all this and more because we have an appointment with destiny. We get how uncertain the future is. We've come of age in a complex world, face to face with problems we didn't create. So what's going to happen next? We are. Because our future is the future. So we're going to build bridges and hospitals in a day and feed those left in the cold. We're going to do all this and more because we have an appointment with destiny. People want to define Gen Z, but that's our job.
I wait tables, but last week I built a field hospital.
I put out a forest fire.
I stopped 1,000 attackers.
And a natural disaster.
I've saved lives.
And led a team on patrol.
I serve.
Well, I go to school full-time.
While I work full-time.
The greater the challenge, the stronger we become.
Good morrow, one and all, and welcome back to the Rally Cry Collegiate Series. It's Rocket League time, as it is wont to be on the Saturday and Sunday, and it's week number 2 of 4 in total before we hit that playoff stage. But enough of that until a little later. Let's go ahead and introduce ourselves. I'm Relic, and joined as always by the wonderful Galgan. How are you doing, good sir?
You are too kind, Relic, and I'm hoping that the Rocket League action this week is just as fantastic as it was last weekend. We've got 12 teams battling it out in this iteration of the Rally Cry Collegiate Series for Rocket League, presented by the U.S. Army and National Guard. And all 12 of these teams, I mean, if we think about what's happened last weekend, going into, as you said, playoff implications, gathering points, whatnot, it's starting to get a bit more important now as teams vie for those top spots with a couple of big names missing from today's field.
Indeed, let's remind ourselves of what everybody is playing for, and not just in terms of Rocket League, of course, for the entire Rally Cry Collegiate Series. Here in Rocket League, we have $6,000 on the line. It's a huge amount of money, of course. Big shout out to the Army National Guard and Rally Cry in general for providing $30,000 total across the entire collegiate series. We got FGC, we got Counter-Strike 2, we got the Madden Collegiate Championship. But right here in Rocket League, we have ourselves a number of favorites. We have ourselves a few plucky underdogs. And today might very well be a day of the underdogs, or a weekend even of the underdogs, you could say, Galgan, because as you've rightly mentioned, a number of the big hitters are not here. However, in our first match of the day, one of them most certainly is here. They're about to make their first bow in the Rally Cry Collegiate Series, and their name is Boise State.
Oh dear. And Cal on the other side of the field is going to learn a lesson fairly quickly about what Boise State can bring to the field. I'm very excited to see this roster in action. You haven't really had to look far to see Preston, Dirtho, and Gil go at it and play matches, whether it be CRL, other collegiate tournaments, whatnot. We don't really need to explain what these players are capable of. But that's the thing. You know, sky's the limit. You come into this like Oakland as well on 0 points so far for the tournament and all 4 weekends of qualification to those playoffs. But I think Boise is shooting very high, especially considering the fact that, as we've mentioned time and time again, 3 of the top 4 on the leaderboard coming into this weekend from the prior weekend play are not present today. The only one current second place resident Southern Miss Coca-Cola, Boise State and Oakland will hope to jump up to some of those top spots.
Man, it's a big opportunity for Coca-Cola to go all the way and get that maximum 100. You'd think that with 100 in the pocket, on top of what they've already accrued up until this point, they should probably be safe to head into that playoff bracket. Reminder that it's the top 16 teams, points total-wise, that go into that playoff bracket. So you don't need an inordinate amount. You just need enough. For Boise State, it's a little bit different, isn't it? They've got 0 points, nil point, as we'd say over here in the UK, with Eurovision soon upcoming. So they have to really get their business done and dusted. They are seeded 2nd overall, just behind Maryville, of course, who had to drop out sadly due to prior conflicts in their schedule. But Boise State are also coming in cold. And this is quite an important point that we're picking up on last weekend, Galgan. Coming in cold really does leave you on the back foot going into a series. Sometimes talent really does make the diff, as the kids would say. But Cal themselves, they're coming off a 4-0 sweep of Ohio State Gray, so they're feeling pretty good right now.
Right, and I mean, personally, not to throw any mystery into the equation, but the jury's still out as to whether or not that series was actually played. I'm not sure if Ohio State Gray made it to the preseason time, but we'll leave that speculation for another time. Okay, the point still stands. Cal have a right, as any other team does, to take a series like this. They've already secured themselves 10 additional points just by getting to this stage, you know, no matter the circumstances that they got here. So so when you look at the overall leaderboard, what really matters around that, 9th to 16th, 5th to 8th area, how many points you're grabbing. Cal has already jumped up over some of the other competitors that we saw today. Bowling Green has gone out early, Michigan State. We have other schools such as Akron Gold, USC not turning up to this weekend's action. It matters much more so, I'd argue, for those teams in the middle of the pack and closer to the 16th spot, because points are so far and few between there that you really need to get at least that one or two, series win under your belt in order to try and shore yourself up and make sure that you've got a playoff berth.
Yeah, as Will Ferrell would say, they sure do be escalating quickly. And really, we do mean it. 5th to 8th place, as you've correctly identified, 10 points. It doesn't seem like much. And it really doesn't seem like much when you consider that 1st place goes away with 100. But just for the sake of clarity for everybody watching, 4th place gets 25, 3rd gets 40. And of course, there is a dedicated 3rd place playoff essentially to determine who gets the lion's share of that 65 on offer. Of course, 2nd place gets 60 points, but then it's that 40-point jump between 2nd and 1st. So even if you get to the grand final, you really need to win it to get the most value out of your weekend. So I think, again, for the likes of Boise State and Coca-Cola, they will be almost half expecting to make it as far down the bracket as possible. Let me just realign myself. So we could potentially have a Southern Miss Boise State grand final. They do find themselves on opposite sides of the bracket. But then again, we'll see what happens, because Maryville, it was one of the craziest series that unfortunately we didn't see, where they went up against UT Dallas, and somehow UT Dallas managed to take them to game number 7. So just because they're seeded well, Galgan, just because they've got the stars next to their name, it does not guarantee anything in a best of 7 of Rocket League.
And listen, you also brought up, the UT Dallas famous Game 7 necessity of every series that they play. Fans of UT Dallas will be happy to hear that it was reported they did not go to Game 7 in their opening series against Southern Miss Gold. It only took them 5 games, but their reward at the end of that to get into top 4 is to beat Oakland University. No sweat whatsoever. UT Dallas have that in the bag clearly. Listen, top 8 is set for this bracket. Other places that we look for the quarterfinals, Southern Miss Coca-Cola, as you mentioned before, they're going up against the Drexel Dragons, who took that win over Bowling Green to open things up. The Pescados of Fisher College will face the Terps of Maryland in the quarterfinals. And of course, when we get the players set and ready to go, Boise State versus the University of Cal here for a best of 7. I try to think about predicting early on. And, it's always kind of playing with fire. And you mentioned sometimes skill does win you the day, but on the other side of things, Boise State may be cold to this matchup. We don't know what they did before this, whether they scrimmed, whether they just woke up, ordered a cheeky little takeaway, and just have been munching away before they try to munch the competition. I don't really know where I'm going with that. I think this goes 5 games maximum with Boise State. I'm gonna lay the bar down now and see if you want to try and jump over that one, but I think 5 games max. Boise State is just a different team.
Yeah, I think you've also got to consider previous results, because cold to this weekend or not, Boise State are also cold to the entire tournament. This is going to be their bow. This is their debut, so to speak, in the Rally Cry Collegiate Series. Cal have that previous experience, but it's not much better, really. I mean, they literally have the mystery series, of course, in the round of 16 today. And they also lost 4-1 to Pescados, who themselves fell quite convincingly so in the quarterfinals. And so, look, can big changes happen from week to week? Yes. Sometimes you have a bad day at the office. That's understandable. But there's a reason why we're hyping up Boise State so much. And it's because we know what they are capable of on a wider stage in the collegiate scene. So I'm actually right there with you. I think if we pass game number 5 in any sort of situation, whether it's near enough the sweep, if it's potentially reverse sweep territory, I think, honestly speaking, Cal would have done very well for themselves.
I have to agree with you. And then you take that conversation and you start looking long term too, because obviously it's still the second weekend of 4 chances to gain points and qualify for the playoffs. You start to think down the line of, okay, if Cal are going to get these, closer series against the teams at the top of the table. Obviously, Pescados are pushing for a top 4 spot. They're on 20 points if they go out in this round, and they'll surely break in to the top 4 with the New Haven Chargers and Maryville both missing out in this particular weekend's action. You start to ask the question for Cal, is it going to be the result that they want to finish in the middle of the pack? Or can they aim for more? We'll have to see if they can aim for this series to begin with, as we bear with some technical difficulties on the back end. We'll head to a quick break and hopefully have this series and more for you after this.
how uncertain the future is. We've come of age in a complex world, face to face with problems we didn't create. So what's gonna happen next? We are. Because our future is the future. The life we have chosen has prepared us for this. So we're going to build bridges and hospitals in a day. We're gonna save families from disasters and feed those left in the cold. We're going to do all this and more because we have an appointment with destiny. We invite you to join us. The next greatest generation is now.
Welcome back, everybody. This is the Rally Cry Collegiate Series presented by the U.S. Army National Guard, and we are just about to get underway with our first top 8 match of the weekend. That's right, we have sped through to the quarterfinals here in the bracket, and it is Boise State going up against the University of Cal in a best of 7 with pretty decent implications on the line to qualify for playoffs a couple weeks down the line. I'm Galgan alongside Relic. You know the deal by now. Relic, best of 7, Boise State, Cal, what you think?
I think that, listen, we are certified fast boys. It's just taken a little bit of time to get up into 7th gear, but now we're there. I think that we're going to see a spectacular performance from Boise State. Personally speaking, I feel like it's so difficult to root for the underdog when there is such a perceived gulf in out-and-out talent, let's say. But when has out-and-out talent ever mattered in Rocket League? When has team play ever mattered in Rocket League? Never, I say. Therefore, I shall inhale my copium, and I shall believe that we're going to be in for a fantastic series that goes the distance.
I mean, if the players on Cal just hit the ball into the net more often than the players on Boise State do...
Exactly.
Like right there, you just win the series. It's as simple as that. I don't know why people don't do that. I don't know why my ranked teammates don't do that. I think they must just be on a different version of the game or something. Maybe they don't have their monitor turned on. But at the end of the day, I am hoping at the very least for, I don't know, because it feels so wrong sitting here being like, oh, I hope for 2 games for Cal. I hope for a competitive.
I haven't even seen them play today. It's they're done for. It's all over. It's like me watching my personal soccer team, Swansea. It's like they're relegated already. It's the end of the road. We've turned up. An ex-player's playing for them. They're gonna score. It's obvious. It's not. It's not obvious. Listen, it's part of the joy of being a commentator sometimes, where you sound smart because you provide all of this concrete evidence and past results, and you're like, clearly it can go no other way, but then it does, and everyone looks silly except the team that's just done the incredible thing. So as much as we're painting this picture of complete and utter domination, let's give them the benefit of the doubt. A single second of Rocket League has yet to be played. Let us judge them upon the conclusion of maybe 2 or 3 games.
Trust me, as a fan of the Philadelphia Eagles, I know this feeling all too well, because they started the season 10-1, and the average fan would think, wow, that's a pretty good winning record. It was a lot of fraudulent play, and it was exposed in the second half of the season, and every single time the game started, you get 1 touchdown scored against the Eagles. Yep, that's it. Game's over. See you next week for more disappointment. So I know that feeling all too well, and I'm hoping that Cal doesn't have to feel the same way that I, along with every other Eagles fan, had to feel for the entire finale of the past NFL season.
Most certainly, right. We are getting actual positive confirmation word that we should be getting into game sooner rather than later. Thank you so much for being so patient, folks. We really do appreciate it. We understand you've been sitting there for a hot second, but I hope that you've taken the time to at least stretch your legs or grab some water. We love you. We want you to look after yourselves. That is... it's a heartfelt message. Just a month of love. We want to spread that, Galgan. But we also do want some Rocket League, most importantly. We want to see this esport being played. And let us remind ourselves for what they're playing for. Of course, $6,000, but that is at the end of a multi-week tournament of multiple brackets, of which over the next couple of days, of course, it's 100 points up for grabs. And for Boise State, let us reiterate. Oh, that was a nice rhyme. They need this. They are sitting on nothing at the moment, so they really do need a big haul since, goodness, at the conclusion of this bracket, we're already at the halfway stage of league play.
Right, I do agree with you, but at the same time, and I get to bring up my fancy in-progress leaderboard that I've been working on.
Oh, yes.
Boise State and Oakland, as Boise State finally hits the field here for this best of 7. While they are on 0 points coming into today, they've already secured 10 just by making it to this round of 8 in the quarterfinals.
True.
Big save early on, however. That puts Boise State ahead of a good amount of teams in the field. Actually locks Boise State into a playoff spot if they were to start today, but we know that's not the case. They've got to work for it. They've got to earn it. Every single point fought for here. The University of Cal will try to do whatever they can to stop that run.
To be fair, not conceding in the first 30 seconds, that is something that, as we learned last week, Galvin, really does set you up for a decent rest of the game. And in fact, Well, there was no conceding there. That was an insane save from the swaggy doctor himself. Boise State coming out swinging. Woozy now off the backboard. The follow-up for Preston is another save, this time from Sybil Pangolin.
Good contact made, but it looks a bit too methodical right now for Boise State. They don't seem too troubled on the push forward, taking their time, taking the best possible angle. Preston goes up, beautiful double down, and that's how Boise State are going to punish you.
I enjoy the patience of this play. Yeah, they speed it up. Yeah, they commit one player, but then it's just not wanting to rush in, not to set up, but to go for the shot themselves. And they achieve that angle beautifully. The drop down on target, it's all that you could ask for. Excellent opening goal here from Boise State. They take the lead in the opening minute.
Surely more in the tank. University of Cal on the other end, it may look scrappy at times, a bit strung out it seems, but maybe they piece something together. Maybe all those pieces fall into place. Bacon with a nice little robbery here. Doc Swag, quick to the touch. Wall, that's fairly open, and Durtho has to stretch for it, so there's a chance. Nice center pass to Bacon. 1-2-1. Hey-o, University of Cal, big start.
Time to start up the trimmer because we're going lawn mowing here. That's a beautiful 1-2 back to Sybil Pangolin. Puts it away beautifully near post as well. Difficult since Preston's already making that run to the near post to go and make the save. So it's a narrow window of opportunity, but it is an opportunity that University of Cal grabbed with both hands. Excellent equalizer.
Love that play. Got it to the back wall, made Durtho stretch, and then immediately realized they had the upper hand. Cal with a really strong response, but can Boise State bring it right back? Woozy goes to the corner looking for more, certainly has the boost to get it done, going 1-for-1 against Doc Swag, and now opposite corner, try it again from the flip side as Doc Swag looks for a clear, pulls off, Pangolin with a slow roller, now picked up by Bacon, and what a pinch save by Durtho.
And they're going to go right down the other side here, box to box. They miss out on the 100, and they kind of flounder at the play. But look at the setup. Oh, never mind. They set up a huge mistake. That was a goal on a plate. Denied, as they would say, heading towards halftime. Boise State should be 2-1 up Galgan, and yet somehow they are not. Or maybe they are. No, they're not. Never mind. It's another huge save.
Actually insane. This series not nearly as far gone as we had concluded, at least as far as the early indications give us here in game one. Woozy trying to hit Preston. It goes far side, immediately turns it back. Quick turn, first one to the ball, sends a bouncer. No. And it's not the shot that Boise State wanted, but it's the shot that they'll score on.
I like Preston. It's a sharp turn, sets it up for Woozy. There's really not too much that Bacon can do there. To be fair, if Woozy did know that Bacon was making that run and was aiming for him to try and get that redirect, giga brain play. Either way, it is the goal that is most important. Doesn't matter how it's scored, Galgan. I would say that the state of affairs has righted itself as University of Cal now have to go looking for another.
And I think that goal is very picturesque of what we expect out of Cal. The mistakes being made are something that Boise State's going to be on top of all series long. So you've got to watch yourself. It's a very difficult question to ask of any Rocket League player, but so many opportunities come down to defensive positioning. Boise State are just going to run right over you if you give them the chance.
I'm sorry, you can't just stand still in the middle of the road and expect the car to just drive into you. You've got to credit Boise State for honestly just capitalizing on that fear that they see in their opponents and almost playing with their food to walk their way to the back of the goal. That's the most egregious in terms of mistakes we've seen from University of Cal. That's a big team mentality gift that they've got to try and overcome. Still 2 goals behind though, Galgan. Not the end of the world. A third, however, and we might be talking about game 1 done and dusted already.
Less than 100 to play here in the first of potentially 7. Double commit in the corner, not quite the effect that Boise State want to keep their push alive, but Preston remains unfazed, goes for a flip reset from midfield. Durtho will have a challenge here on the no boost Doc Swag, and decent positioning to keep Cal at least with a fighting chance, but Durtho has taken over. Back wall blocks with the double, just absolutely stuffing that one against the back line. Cal struggling to get this push into fruition, and it's largely due to the fact, again, that they have to space out very far and launch from far and away just to make contact with the ball, let alone follow it up with the resources that they already expended.
Yeah, Boise State are actually playing a lot more conservatively, playing a lot more keep ball, but now on the counter-attack, on the transition, well, it was 3v1. They decided to go wide just to burn a little more time off the clock, and that does force UOC into a little bit more of a precarious position. They simply have to commit forces forward, but one of those forces has been destroyed in the midfield. And again, Boise State just playing keep away. So frustrating for the team in blue, but again, you've got to credit the team in front. They are managing this beautifully.
Woozy now to try and put the icing on the cake. Beautiful center pass, and Dirt, though, has a clear target to slam that one home. Boise State, what started out as a close affair, has become a comfortable finish.
Yeah, just a lovely flicking fill from Woozy, and Durtho was there on the same wavelength, capitalizing again on Cal sending too many players forward, which they kind of need to do at this stage in the game. To be fair, you will see they're a team that look really, really comfortable in possession, and the goal that they scored, Gal, let's just not forget, gorgeous. Beautiful. Shows that they really do know a thing or two about stringing together team plays. And even here, that's a decent setup. But as the game has gone on and as the goals have gone in, they have struggled more, they have panicked more, and their defensive frailties have been opened. I think there's certainly a good foundation to work with here going into game number 2. But it's a foundation that they're going to have to very quickly build upon. Otherwise, Boise State are just going to steamroll over them for the rest of the series.
While they've been busy building, Boise State have built themselves a small series lead to kick things off. 0 seconds won't do anything to change the result, and put down into the ground as the side in orange notches 1 on their tally. But you bring up a very good point about Cal, the pieces falling into place. We see flashes of brilliance there for Cal. They have the mechanical ability. The team plays, especially with the goal that they scored, fantastic. But how often can you replicate that over the course of an entire game, over the course of an entire series? It's something that, against your average, evenly matched opponent for Cal, it's something easier said than done. Against an opponent like Boise State, it's something that is necessary. There is no more time to be messing about and trying to go through trial and error to figure out a series win. You've got to have it on lock from the very first step.
Yeah, and the issue with going all eggs into one basket, you can go for a low ball passing play sort of style, should you so wish. But again, that kind of requires the manpower to have someone available in open space at all times. And so naturally, that leaves areas of the pitch where one hard clearance out into that area and all of a sudden everybody's chasing back, and it's a 50-50 as to who's going to get there first, / who's actually going to hop on that ball and potentially set up something thereafter. And that's a risk that UOC, they're willing to play with it, certainly, but how often have they been on the ball for an elongated period of time to set themselves up in that position in the first place? There's a big disconnect between what they want and where they are at right now. Time to find the thread.
It's tough to get possession, keep it for that long when Boise State, just being the ball hogs that they are, but they have every right to do so. Look at the control here from Preston trying to find Woozy. Down from the corner, ceiling early on. Doc Swag brings it back the other way, but everybody from Cal is so far pushed up, they think that challenge is going to stuff itself and find it sitting square along the goal line.
Okay.
And hey, you know what? Maybe it does on the second attempt. Doc Swag puts it home.
I think this is the first major gripe I've got with Boise State, where it felt like everybody was ready to transition, but everyone had also forgotten the ball. and so in this occasion, Cal's high press works in their favor. They're able to spin on a dime, and because of that overload of players, they're able to find the back of the net. It's the first lead that they've had all series long, but it's so early in the game. Can they keep it?
It's a real difficult issue for them to play with it. I hold my breath because I thought we were getting the equalizer right there, but Boise State will have to work just a bit harder. You can see how calm they are in the offensive zone. No, Preston got that one all the way out, but nobody wanted to commit just yet. Woozy now off the back wall. Dirt, though, goes 1, 2, 3 off the bar again. Second shot saved away. Woozy with another quick pop. And Doc Swag uses all the boost to get it clear, but may not have done enough. Rung off the crossbar. Woozy goes back. And the defense holds strong, however scrappy for Cal, but not for very much longer.
And Boise State's so good that they're willing to play defense for their opponents a couple of times. That's a gorgeous shot. What a great save from Bacon as well. Well read. And over the top of one to Silver Pangolin. It's 1 versus 2. Flicks it past the second. Was looking at that final bump of Preston reads the play very nicely indeed. Here's Bacon up in the face. Doesn't get a piece of the ball. Over to the far side of the pitch here. Woozy continues to drive forward. Doc Swag manages to throw it into the corner, and now it's going to try and run downfield, but no boost. Has to rotate back in. Maybe the wrong decision because it gave Silver Pangolin no out, and it's back in Boise hands. hands.
You can see the midfield line fully dominant by Boise State in their positioning, and they've clearly got it on lockdown.
Yes.
It results in scoring chances like that. You don't get a passing play that deep in the zone without establishing a chokehold on the defense.
I do appreciate pinpoint precision. That is outstanding accuracy from Woozy, who I believe notches up their second goal of the entire series, and what a peach it was as well. So narrow, again, so narrow a lane to try and shoot through. Bacon was in a pretty decent position. Off the kickoff, almost gets a goal for their own. Big save again from Preston at the back. Tie game as we head toward the 3-minute mark.
Would have been a good start, good foot in the door though for Cal. If they can break this, one is all they get. Curse. Woozy doesn't want to make that happen though. Misses on the air dribble. There'll be a quick clear back. Advantage in numbers on the transition play as Bacon tries to center. Blocked away immediately at that near post. Civil Pangolin, no other luck. Doc Swag getting ambushed by every Boise State player. And the clear's not fast enough to punish the fact that Boise State all pushed up with that ball at the midfield line. A rare opportunity for Cal to try and find a lane through, and they do. But no real mainstay, no real pressure that Boise State feels. They can just take their time on this clearance, even though it still looks very high strung out.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, you can see that UOC are definitely playing a little bit above their station right now. Every action does seem a little bit strained. Case in point, the defense torn apart by their own actions, and Woozy notches up a second of the game.
That's a real problem when you understand that Boise State have so much more pace. You feel like you have to be the first one to the ball at all times, and that's why you see those awkward movements. That's why you see the players from Cal trying to jump against their own goal just to redirect it out of the danger zone. It's a move that panicked defenses have to make in order to clear their lines as quickly as possible. Again, that's exactly where Boise State want Cal right now. They can just take the ball away for free in most cases.
And look at how far up the field all of the Cal players were as well. All three of them in the final third of the pitch. It just took 150 going in favor of Boise State to not just clear the lines, but set up a fully fledged counter-attack. It requires another big save. Speaking of, there's one at the near post, but too many players once again are called into action. They run out of reinforcements, and Woozy's got his hat trick.
I don't know about you, but I'm getting a massive case of deja vu. This just feels like we've gone and put game one on repeat, in a sense, where Cal have a strong start. They understand exactly what needs to get done in order for themselves to not only hold possession, but show they've got the mechanical gift, they've got the team plays on lock. And then it feels like they just didn't quite stock up the gas tanks enough. They run out of that energy as it goes on. And sure, there are fading chances like this clearance here, but at the end of the day, it's a combination. Misses from all three players who went for the ball, transition back, and there's your fourth goal. Boise State continue.
The goal for Preston in the series, and I mean, it's such an unnecessary touch. It was on target from Dirtho anyway. Complete flub from Doc Swag, who's trying to save it whilst also flying backwards towards his own net. This is a proper capitulation this time around from University of Cal. The big difference for me between game one and game two, Gaugan, being that Cal had that lead. You know, they had something to work with, and Boise State, you hit the nail on the head. They were just waiting for the mistakes from their opponents, and the mistakes have come aplenty.
It's such an odd circumstance, though, it feels like, because in the reality where Cal strings together everything over the course of 5 consecutive minutes, that this game probably gets closer to an overtime, but we're not there right now. They've got a minute at a time in each of these games, and Boise State is just waiting for that minute to expire and then running over. All of the Cal players have no reason to be that close to each other in the defensive zone at the near post. They're going to get beat on anything. So you start to ask a lot of questions for this University of Cal side, and I don't know if you can answer all of them before the next 2 games are over.
7 shots on target. Dirtho finally gets his first goal for University of Cal. Literally just scoring 2 goals right now, I feel, is the aim of the game. Scoring 1 is fine, but this is, it's literally giving me a traumatic experience. This is literally Swansea 101 right now. They manage to score somewhat, but then they give up a bajillion chances. And when you give up a bajillion chances, you're bound to concede 1 or 2 at the end of it. Less than 20 seconds left. It is administrative time for Boise State, who now find themselves on 2-0. Halfway there, but they're most certainly not living on a prayer. This is all their own ability. Oh, never mind. That's also all their own ability, or lack thereof, I guess.
You know what? Take it for the road. Why not? Breaking the 1-goal curse if even it only lived for a single game. But now I get to go back to the fun point that we had last weekend, where maybe they're on that linear progression. It's 1 goal in game 1, 2 goals in game 2. That kind of scares me because it feels like Boise State will score 10 by the time we get to game 4. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there. I think Boise State are happy to be where they are right now, still as comfortable as ever.
Well, look, that's his first goal of the season, and so, hey, not of the season, sorry, of the series, I should clarify, but it's a monkey off the back, so to speak. Going by your logic, they are at a continual disadvantage, Arcal, because they'd be going 1, 2, 3, 4, whereas their opponents are going 4, 5, 6, 7 potentially. So it's the eternal question for Rocket League teams. How does them stop the goals? And it's much trickier to figure that out because you can't just say, well, stop the mistakes. It's never that simple because there's so many mitigating factors.
Yeah, that's, again, mentioned it during game 1, where it's like Boise State is not the team that you want to be making several mistakes against because they're going to be preying on every single downfall that you give them an opportunity to do so. But on top of that, like, you're right on it. Fixing the mistakes is just one drop in the bucket towards beating a team like Boise State, because if you're not making the mistakes, Boise State is going to force them out of you. And part of the reason why we've seen this stretched out gameplay, it feels like, from Cal, and the fact that they're racing to every ball, they feel like they have to win the race, even if nobody from Boise State is immediately pressuring the ball, is because Cal understands the threat of what's going to happen if they allow anybody from Boise State to take the ball into their hands. That is a very dangerous precedent to set, because rather than knowing you can win whatever challenge you set out to take, it's, I don't want to take a challenge against a player from Boise State. How am I going to hit the ball faster than them? And that kind of limits your play style. Boise State then can either prey on the miss from whatever Cal player goes for that hit, or just wait for the Cal player to put it somewhere where there's no teammate to follow up, and then Boise State just get a free possession again.
Boise State playing boisterously and with good reason. Seeing the University of Cal defense just about able to save away, to transition downfield. Getting a goal here or there, sure, but how many can we score is always the question, seemingly just on the breadth of their lips. But let's see whether Cal can get themselves 1-0 up. That is that's Takumi, and that is a battle bus, unhinged. The team comp, it seems, for University of Cal.
Yeah, we've got the Watermelon Octane as well, so the full gamut here. Listen, I mean, if it works, it works, I guess. I feel like they had a good thing going for them in the opening minute. They didn't really need that much of a mental shakeup, but maybe these cards get stronger as they go on. Bacon! I'm not going to say that if you're in a different car, that ball goes in the goal. I am going to say there's a pretty good chance. There's like a non-zero chance that ends up a little different.
They need belief. And maybe through the power of Fortnite, they can believe.
Oh.
Unfortunately, that belief only stretches as far as 0-0, and Woozy has changed that scoreline.
Boise State, Fortnite, cringe. Absolute cringe. They do not care. 347. I mean, who does not think the series will be a sweep? Put your hand up. I'd like to have a word with you. I think Boise State would probably have a word with you first and foremost, because, again, it just, nothing in my mind tells me that Boise State are worried in the slightest. They're waiting for misses from Cal. They're just playing their own game, their own brand. The ball doesn't even really need to go on target in some cases. Now, Cal have had some breakaways, like they do here on the transition. It's 2-on-1, but Preston just has so much time off the sideball. It's a third uninterrupted touch and nearly a wonderful goal. This is almost a 3-0, but the one player who respawns from the demo gets it on transition, and of course Boise State score.
That is a huge mistake from Bacon. Unfortunately, just cracks at the pivotal moment. Awful touch straight into the hands of a player who can throw it right downfield. from a 3v1 into a 2v no one. And speaking of, it is 2v nothing now in terms of the scoreline as well. It does seem like an inevitability for Boise State, but University of Cal, they are not helping themselves, and that's frustrating, Galgan, because we've seen flashes of true brilliance.
You truly have. But listen, as we go on, I have to do this because you know me. I'm the results guy when it comes to tournaments where other matches are happening while our match is happening. Boise State, one of the newcomers in the field, had 18 teams in the previous leaderboard, now up to 20. Boise State and Oakland University was the other newcomer. Oakland University are out. They are done by the hand of UT Dallas, who have managed to squeak their way into the top 4 at the very least. So it'll be 10 points, all that Oakland managed to grab. Boise State looking for a better performance than their newcomer compadres.
UT Dallas are just playing a different game, I'm convinced at this point. They form? What form? Oh, this form? Okay, I guess. Speaking of form not going in favor of Cal, as another shot goes high, but not particularly wide. I think, quite frankly, it's just a case of playing for time for Boise State. University of Cal still knocking on the door, trying to find a goal, but that door on their side is looking pretty rickety, off the hinges. I mean, we did call them unhinged earlier on with this particular sort of car pick, not the swag over so particularly extravagant, and that's a great pass in field action to Pangolan, but decent defense from Boise. Good to see they're not getting too overconfident.
Oh, demos are flying as well. Had one on Bacon to try and break up Cal's sequence. Woozy was traded back in transition to slow down Boise State. Woozy responds with a solid save. Custom with a challenge early here. Sent back to the corner shot opportunity, but too quick on the jump. Bacon in that battle bus. I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to say Bacon is in the battle bus right now. And Civil Pangolan trying to get the clear out. Doc Swag with the catch and collect. First touch is a bit too far. Still gets the double down. Well, the crossbar just a couple pixels too high.
But that was their best opportunity of the game, Galgan. And when you're talking about a 5%er as your best chance of the game, you know that you really are struggling. Even that one moment of brilliance seems to have escaped them in game number 3, although that is a rather devilish pass back into a dangerous area. Woozy has to throw it off to the side, picks up 100 and just buys time beautifully for his team to reset back into a defensive shape. 30 seconds left, time running out. Time enough to score 2, Galgan. I very much doubt it, however.
Bacon, though, tries to make it happen against 2, and listen, it forced a lot of Boise State into that play, but Preston, rings it up. How do you even begin to predict something like that? I think you just put a hand up and hope for the best, and my goodness, it's not going to change the outcome of this game, but wow, to not concede a third there. That might just be the mental kick that Cal needed.
I mean, we've had some extraordinary saves in this series, haven't we? And it's so sad that the majority of them have come from Cal, but they've lost every single game so far. The performance doesn't matter. You need results at this point, because you lose another one, you're out of the bracket. You go home with 10 points, but that's all you're getting, brother. So look, the reverse sweep is looking unlikely, right? I said, let's judge them 3 games in. It's looking unlikely. No more mistakes from here on out. It's as simple as that. If they do that, they can maybe win. I'm not even going to say 100% win. Boise State just looking that comfortable.
Absolutely. Speaking of looking comfortable, our previous weekend's runners-up in Southern Miss Coca-Cola, they have advanced to the semifinals, taking a 6-game victory over the Drexel Dragons. That puts Drexel on a points total of 15. They are firmly in the middle of the table right now. Southern Miss Coca-Cola, a minimum of 85 points once they walk away from this weekend. If Southern Miss Coca-Cola does not make it to the final but wins that 3rd place match, they will be tied with our current leaderboard leaders in Oklahoma Christian. Anything better than a 3rd place finish puts Southern Miss Coca-Cola, barring any other wild results, in the number 1 spot. I believe there's not really a chance for anybody else to grab that, because UT Dallas would have 110 points if they ended up winning this. We'll figure out the math at a later stage. Do we think the reverse sweep is in the cards? The cards have not changed for the University of Cal, so I have to believe we are seeing a legacy game here from Bacon on the battle bus. I will not be convinced of any other result.
If it's in the cards, I think I want my money back from Mystic Meg, Galgan. I wouldn't be too trusting of that service from here on out. Or maybe mysticism and such is just a state of mind. That's a gorgeous ball into the central area, by the way, but Dogswag does really nicely to throw it off to the side where they find Dirtho. Oh my goodness! Oh wow! And eventually Woozy does put it in. But again, the heroics of University of Cal, they cannot go understated enough.
And if I'm Woozy in comms, I'm just saying this is all me. Like 100%, that's all me on the goal. And nobody else did anything to set it up, clearly. You gotta have a little bit of fun with it. I feel like Cal, at this point, they understand this mechanical step up that the players on Boise State can take. It's all about trying to get in their face, but when you jump to commit to a wonderful mechanical display like Dirtho had from the back wall, I mean, there's only so much that you can hope for in the follow-through. So Boise State get the lead in the game that will lead to their sweep in this best of 7. Dirtho goes wide. Thought that was a clear second. Still have one defender on the line. Bacon goes for a quick clear. Dogswag turns it around.
Oh, it's in!
It's right under the bar. There's your equalizer.
Goal number 2 for Dogswag. I mean, honestly, what a slicing pass from Bacon. If it doesn't have that velocity, it doesn't set up the connection that Dogswag eventually gets. This has to be the shot in the arm, Galgan. It really is last chance saloon.
We'll have to see. The momentum can stay through yet to watch this University of Cal roster maintain it through the full 5 minutes. Another pass and shot finds its way through, but the near post unforgiving. Challenges here at the middle of the field. Dogswag looks to catch and collect and do it all themselves as they put it just wide of the target. Woozy still registers a save as Dirtho goes up from the ceiling. No boost, no problem. It'll follow underneath though, so not a whole lot of resources for Boise State to get back. It doesn't matter. Preston immediately blocks. Woozy picks up the follow through, and there's Dirtho completely unfazed. Like, that's not a sequence that Boise State should get an offensive transition out of, and yet they execute it like it's on the back of their hand.
Oh, the precision as well. Again, knows that Sybil Pangolin's going for the round the back of the net sort of save and just goes, he shoots super low and hits the mark beautifully. There isn't really even enough time for the ball to bounce off the ground before it's hit the back of the net. It's almost lackadaisical in nature. It is so chill, you might as well put it in the freezer. But University of Cal, they're still trying to turn up the wick now. They're trying to turn up the fire, the flame, the passion. But more passion, more energy. It only gets you a couple of chances, and against Boise State, you need to put at least one of them away.
There's only so much that the heart of the cards can get you in Rocket League, although it would be very interesting if we had, you know, like the card launchers, the Yu-Gi-Oh card launchers in here. I don't know what kind of implication that would have in a game like Rocket League, but hey, I mean, if we need new content ideas, you know where to find me. I will probably produce some of the worst ones, but I mean, no content needed here for this series. Every single clear on target for Boise State gets even more threatening. That was a close attempt at a center pass in transition, but the demo removes any chance for Cal to get some capitulation in that regard. Another challenge that Preston wins out as Dogswag just wants to lay this out of the danger zone. But it feels like every area of the pitch is the danger zone when it comes to Boise State.
Could Rocket League take a leaf out of Apex Legends and go for car Questions for another day. 2 minutes left, and this ain't over. Still a 1-goal game. Bacon is on target. Preston with another save, and it's straight to Woozy. It's straight into the blue half. Wave dashing, not taking any chances. They want to be merciless. They want that daylight, but they're not going to get it. The breakaway now for University of Cal. Dogswag going into the eastern corner, leaves it, goes for the boost. Downtown, Silver Pangolin holds it up at the midfield line. Nice recontrol here, down to Dogswag. Demo, it's on Woozy. I think that was a shot. I don't think it was on target. Dirtho, oh, what a great fake. Oh, no way! No way! No way did we just witness that in real time.
For everything that Cal does on their end to try and score, Dirtho just says, hold this L. Boise State cannot be stopped. The march continues on. Listen, we knew it was going to be a dominant series, but not like this.
What do we even call that? I don't think I've ever seen a goal scored in that particular fashion before. The little dink off the grass into the jump. I think they utilised the jump or the flip into the incredible, just incredible. And if that isn't the cherry on top of this finely baked cake, then I don't know what is. But hold the phone. We're going to throw some devilish ingredients into the mix. Civil Pangolin makes it interesting for the last 60.
So Durtho tries to bait Dog Swag up into the wall, but doesn't have the momentum to carry the ball through, and everybody else from Boise State's out of rotation. I can understand trying to fake a player through, but I feel like you have to have somebody behind you for that to work. And whether or not Woozy, rotating into the near post, I'm overthinking things at a certain point. It's good on Cal to take advantage of a situation like that, and they have about a minute. Come on, Bacon, this is the goal you need. No boost in the tank, though. It's not going to come easily. Civil Pangolin jumps up early, but Preston is clear. Doc Swag will have to go in and out to save this one. Bacon pulls it out and away. Clear through Civil Pangolin. Quick shot. Crossbar off the top corner. And Doc Swag's not there fast enough. Walking it down is Preston. And it was post to post.
Words escape me, Galgan. Durtho, though, seems to have some sort of clarity through the miss. Oh, it's like a dagger into the chest of University of Cal. Woozy thrusts it upon So, and that might be all she wrote.
And somehow we get one of the craziest endings to a game here, and it's going to be a sweep. Everybody's looking at the scoreboard like, why is this so intense? It doesn't need to be this crazy, but Cal have made it so, and unfortunately in some very sad ways against them. 10 seconds left. The game is over. The series is over. It was a hard-fought series from Cal, but Boise State are a different breed. They will secure, at the very least, 25 points, but most importantly, a berth into the semifinals tomorrow.
Indeed they will, and very well managed. I think we have to re-emphasize this time and time again, especially when it seemed like nothing was going Cal's way. It's so easy to get complacent, to oversell yourselves and to get punished for that. But despite the many punishments that Cal could inflict over the course of that series, it was never enough to just overturn the fluency of play and also just the collective calmness from Boise State. That's the most ominous thing for me. We talk about Cal body language sometimes. This is a team that looked completely and utterly unfazed throughout the entire affair.
That's the biggest thing for me too, is when you look on the side of Cal, there were chances in transition. They were moving quickly. They had the pace that you expect from a team at this level, which is a great first step. You've got to bring the ball with you, and far too often Cal were the ones chasing, trying to keep up with the pace of play. Like I said earlier on in the series, they were scared of what Boise State could do with the ball, so the implication then becomes, how are we going to take the ball away immediately? That doesn't always result in the touch that you want on the first effort, and I think that's where, in response, you get a lot of opportunities for Boise State to step in, take possession, take control, get several passing plays going. But flashback to the very beginning of the series, right? And the first goal that we saw Cal score, beautiful, grounded passing play. If you get some more of that, we start to talk about going the distance in this series, but just not having that sort of composure over the course of an entire game and the entire series, I feel like that's what ended up leading to Cal's downfall.
I don't know whether you'd agree with me fully on this, but I think that Cal's very much a team that they had us in the first half. When they're in possession and when they're feeling it, they are clearly a team with bags of quality. But on it's such a difficult thing to ask of this team, especially mid-season. It feels like the thing that they need to improve upon most is their mentality. It feels like when they go behind, they're not going to get back into the game. At least not fully, not into an equalizer, and certainly not into a go-ahead goal or a second go-ahead goal in some cases.
And we take a look at some of the replays here. Again, you get some of those early goals from Cal, the chances that they had, but I cannot overstate how much Boise State looked calm, cool, and composed in the most definitive way. You open up the dictionary to that phrase, it wouldn't have that phrase in there. They're all different words. They do all start with C. I don't know where I'm going with this. Every single goal from Boise State just looked like they knew exactly what was happening before the pass even started. And that is something that you cannot teach an individual to do. They've got to learn it as a team. Now, we see goals like that towards the end. Yes, a couple mistakes from Boise State that Cal are able to jump on. And maybe as we get further into the tournament, especially if we see Boise State tomorrow in either the semifinals or the grand final, if they make it there are mistakes being made. There are times where Boise State pushes up together a bit too quickly. What can another team do to try and punish some of that? I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, it really does feel like we just need to see a team that's a little bit more composed, and maybe Boise State themselves will crack, but that's asking a lot, isn't it? And I think, honestly, this is the goal. This is the goal. Oh, that is disgusting. Not even a jump or a flip utilized. It's just physics, baby. And when you've got a player who can, like, Durtho came away with the least goals, by the way, and yet he's able to pop off so spectacularly. And in those last moments too, where it's a little bit crazy, might very well have swung violently in favor of University of Cal, maybe forcing an overtime, still Boise State were able to ride out the waves and get it to the end. And really the stats reflect so much. I'm surprised that they actually put up 19 saves. A credit to University of Cal for how many shots, quality shots, that they put on target. Boise State, though, speaking of waves, they are the tsunami in Rocket League form, just continually assaulting the net, sometimes out of their own quality, sometimes out of the lack of presence from University of Cal. But you play what you put up against Skowhegan, and in this case, they played against their opponents very well indeed.
There are plenty of hypotheticals to deal with for Cal moving out of this series, but they walk away with 10 points, a 5-point improvement from last weekend for a total of 15 on the leaderboard. However, it's Boise State with a sweep. They advance to the semifinals here in the second weekend of play for the Rally Cry Collegiate Series presented by Army National Guard. There are 3 quarterfinals that have now been completed, with Southern Miss, Coca-Cola, and UT Dallas both advancing to the semifinals to play each other. Boise State making it out of the quarterfinals still have to find out who their opponent will be. Will it be the Pescados of Fisher University or Terps Esports from the University of Maryland? That quarterfinal is coming up after this short break.
We get how uncertain the future is. We've come of age in a complex world, face to face with problems we didn't create. So what's gonna happen next? We are. Because our future is the future. The life we have chosen has prepared us for this. So we're going to build bridges and hospitals in a day. We're going to save families from disasters and feed those left in the cold. We're going to do all this and more because we have an appointment with destiny. We invite you to join us. The next greatest generation is now.
Welcome back to the Rally Cry Collegiate series, presented to you by the Army National Guard. It's Relic and Gaugan coming back at you with another quarterfinal, and it's a quarterfinal that honestly I'm super excited about. We've got ourselves Terps, we've got ourselves Pescados, we've got ourselves two very familiar faces from last week, Gaugan, both of which were taken out by the eventual grand finalists.
And that's the thing, is they both have, expectations to reach farther beyond, potentially. I mean, I guess we'll find out. It's, both of these teams coming through, Maryland and Fisher. I feel like you think of Fisher, right? And you have these expectations in your head. There are some super schools in North America that have spawned, not up to much else other than dominating the esports space. Fisher is definitely one of them. Now, this is the Pescados roster. It's not quite the Fisher that you saw on the World Championship stage come last year, but that isn't to say that they're not a strong team. You do correctly point out, however, that the Pescados were taken out at this stage, top 8, by Southern Miss Coca-Cola in the first iteration. Obviously, Terps were taken out by Oklahoma Christian. So both of these teams experienced against playing a grand finalist in one of these Rally Cry Collegiate Series weekends, but what can they do to take each other out? 10 points was what they managed last weekend. One of them will surpass that total here, the Pescados of Fisher College and Terps Esports of the University of Maryland. It all comes down to this. It feels like this is a very pivotal matchup for both of these teams.
It really does. Kevin, Tasek, and False going up against Turtle, JD Knight, Hexy, and Boo, depending on what particular roster Terps put forward. I think they've got themselves a really good roster to work with, as do Pescados, to be fair. Pescados, of course, we saw on stream ourselves going up against Southern Miss Coca-Cola. And if I was to say which of these two teams are the unknown, we're not just saying Terps because we didn't see them on stream. We're saying Terps because so many teams dropped 4-0 to OC. Oklahoma Christian were on absolute tear last week, to the extent where Southern Miss dropped 4-1. And yet they were the only team that managed to get a game off their opponents in the end. So I think Terps definitely has the most to prove, if that's the right way to go about it. Pescados will be a little bit more concerned, given that they lost against the team that lost 4-1 to OC in the first place. But hey, the only way is up, as they say. And like you rightly say, this is a really important one just for, I think, their overall season. If you get yourself into that semi-final berth, then you're at least guaranteed entrance into the third place playoff, and that could be enough points to see you through to the end of season playoffs, of course.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm getting at. I mean, going even aside from making it into the playoffs, because both of these teams, the loser of this series is going to end the day with 20 points total, which doesn't seem like a whole lot, but considering how many teams are under that total at this stage, it still gives you a pretty good shot. I think it's most important for seeding, however, because these two teams' early impressions would be to place them on level heading so far, but of course we've only seen so much of them, and you rightly noticed that both of their tournaments were ended early last weekend. It's not the full story, the full picture that we're getting from either side, but this is going to paint in a lot of the missing pieces that we have for both of these sides and show us if there really is a clear favorite. Because for as much as I can sit here in my head and in my heart of hearts and say, Fisher puts together some pretty good rosters, I feel like I'd favor them. At the same time, Maryland, big school. I know they have the ability to piece together some wonderful rosters for whatever esport they attempt to enter here. They are well within their right. They just ran into a very hot Oklahoma Christian roster at the wrong time last weekend, but this weekend could be different. Will it? Maryland, you've got to prove it to us, yourselves, and everybody watching.
They really are super closely matched, by the way. I was just having a little gander at our overall seedings for this season. Pescado's 9th and Terps are 10th. So you really could not get more closely matched a pairing of teams if you had tried. This isn't just then for points. This isn't just about the semi-finals. This is for pride and for honor, and it's more of a statement than anything. And that first goal will be incredibly important to set your team off on the right foot.
So it's a start for Terps on the defensive side. JD looking for any little bit of help here, any clear, but the midfield hold is stellar for the Pescados at this point in time. Tasek in that dominance, just making every bit of contact that he can with the ball. Kevin on the follow through, and here's False to try and provide that third man support, but it's sent wide, and finally Maryland have a look at this blue end of the field. Feels like it's been quite a while, even if only 1 minute has gone by, but a distinct change in play style. I feel like from the first series we watched, both teams vying for possession with a bit more contest in their way as Maryland get their first looks on offense.
False starting from square one. There is nobody ahead of him, closed down by Knight. Hexy quick on the scene, looking for this double tap, finds it a little too wide, a little too sharp an angle on this occasion. Tasek now over the top of one. Boog forced back, an important touch, missed follow-up. False goes a little too high, fails on his follow-up. Tasek eventually with the shot on target, but it's saved.
It's tough to see False play the double in that situation. I feel like taking a straight shot is a bit better, albeit you have all 3 Maryland players in net, so it's tough to find the exact angle. You want to try and get somebody to jump just to waste resources for the follow-through, but Kevin takes a pot shot from near midfield line, and it works.
Yeah, JD Knight's already avoided a demo. That's why he finds himself on the near post, puts himself in an awful position ultimately, and although the goal looks really bad from a defensive point of view, it's because of the hassying, the harassment and harrying, smush the 2 words together from from Pescados, I should say, that ultimately leads to that open, clear-cut opportunity.
I mean, if any team is bound to be an example for a hassying play style, look no further than Boise State in the previous series, right? They were the textbook definition of such a hassying. I'm sorry, I really didn't need to say it a second time, but it just kind of happened. You know, it sticks with me.
Yeah. just make me feel like an idiot. Go on.
Listen, it leaves an impression. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's just, you know, it's memorable in the best kind of way, I think. Oh boy, crossbar off for Maryland. All right, they've got a solid transition. It's immediately brought back, however, by the Pescados, and this is going to become an issue very quickly for Terps Esports. They can't solidify themselves on transition defense because look at the Pescados turn around for the passing plays and try and get it on target quickly.
If casters were submitted for Yelp reviews, I guess. Less than 2 minutes left. Pescados still have that lead. Most importantly, we might be falling apart in the proverbial comms box, but there's certainly been no falling apart from these fishy friends. They've looked really strong on defense, and Terps Esports have struggled to generate much, honestly. False goes wide, and that's kind of been the story of Pescados. They haven't, I mean, they've got their shooting boots on, but it feels like they're untied.
Yeah, it kind of feels like we are watching 3 Harry Kanes at this point. They've just absolutely binned everything a bit too high. So, you know, I mean, it's great to see the offensive pressure, and I'm sure Maryland are not too happy with the fact that they've conceded so many chances, but they've got to end up on target, surely, even if the game says they do. There haven't been too many chances that you look at it and think, oh, Pescados, surely they, you know, score that if somebody doesn't save it. The woodwork is doing a whole lot of the heavy lifting for Terps Esports. Question being, though, on the other side of the field, when's it going to happen? Maryland have not had a very solid, lengthy look at the offensive push. We're 50 seconds remaining in this game, and they're still trying to slow roll it.
They've not had a sniff. And that's worrying, very worrying indeed. But it only takes one opportunity, just takes one breakaway, one lapse of concentration for Pescados, and all the hard work to try and at least maintain the lead. And it's not for the want of trying that they've looked to extend it as well. And all goes to waste potentially, and there's less than 30 seconds now. Good drive forward from Kevin. That's a big throwaway downtown. Oh no! Oh wow! Prophetical what?
I just like not. Yeah, I don't really know what to say. I'm gonna be completely honest. It's like not even. It's like a disconnection. Like I just lost all method of rational thought. All right, 20 seconds left. We've got a tie game. You know what? A little help from your Fisher friends never hurt anybody. JD wants to immediately put the dagger in for Terps Esports as Boog goes to the corner. Pasek plays it low and slow. Little half flip to beat one. Hop over to beat the second. Over the top of Hexy. Kevin jumps. Tasek touching too wide. False with a shot on. Saved away. Up in the corner though. Tasek one last center. Kevin bang! No! Big save from Hexy.
Oh, I mean, again, proverbially speaking, but threw their body on the line for that one. I realize that you don't get hurt in these monster machines, but oh, wow, that was a huge play to force the OT. And now Terps Esports have something of a fresh start. It's open play, it's golden goal. And as much as their defense has wibbled and wobbled, it has held most crucially to allow them this opportunity, an opportunity that Pescados look to snuff, and Tasek pops off to confirm the win.
Hey, you simply don't stop a player who's feeling as good as Tasek is right now. Beautiful flip reset, keeps it high, but just under the crossbar. You can only dream as a defender of getting a piece of that ball as the Pescados. Okay, so they won game one. Let's just snap back to reality a little bit here. Like, what?
I know.
I just, it's such.
Hey,
such
Galgan, you know what that game was? It was memorable.
It was very memorable.
It was very memorable.
It was very memorable. You know, Pescados did a very solid job of hassying Terps Esports throughout the entire, 4 minutes and 40 odd seconds, I think, before that own goal was scored. So, putting that aside and whatever the wrap up to that game was, I feel like we can kind of start to talk about player diff and mechanical diff just a little bit. It's only been one game, small sample size. I am confident that the players of Terps Esports have it within themselves, but I feel like they kind of have to show us now, because Tasek, if you're going to continue to give Tasek the ball and plays like that are going to continue to happen, some response has to be articulated here from Terps Esports.
I've got hilariously on my sort of like goal counter, I got my notepad. Kevin 1, Tasek 1, false -1. Had they not touched the ball, it would have gone wide. It was a fantastic redirect. Shows that they could do it, just wrong sides of the pitch, but it's kind of damning for Terps Esports that none of their players actually scored a goal. Like, really, truly, none of them scored a goal. And they're going to concede straight from the off, are they? No. JD Knight makes the save. And that is a much needed one, as down the other side they look to try and force the issue not to be.
I guess transition game is the name of the game. False puts it wide, and is Maryland going to be able to immediately counter? Doesn't quite look like it. Here's Pescados for a quick hold. Kevin goes back wall, no second touch. But False is there, and no immediate response from Maryland. They're just happy to play it away. Hexy now goes over the top. Solid read, looking for the pinch on the challenge, and forces Tasek out to the corner. Good play. This one could end up center for somebody to get, but nobody trusted enough. I think Boog was a bit far off on the angle, tried to get the jump on it, be a bit proactive, but not going to work on this occasion. I do wonder if we're in for another low-scoring game again, because it feels like both of these teams clam up defensively in a good way. That being said, one of these teams surely has the key to step up and go on a multi-goal run. The question is, how soon do we get something like that?
Yeah, it's not stagnant. It's just not very expressive in the midfield. It's very sweaty. It's very congested. It's like the reference will be lost on you. It'll be lost on the rest of the viewers, to be honest. It's a very UK reference. It's like the M25 at rush hour. Chock-a-block, can't move. I guess there's a freeway equivalent. Insert your freeway here into this reference. The point being that it's a difficulty to get out of that midfield and generate an opportunity, but when you do get an opportunity, it's got to be a 1v1. That was really well worked by False, but again, simply too many bodies in the way, that being one too many.
So crazy to win that challenge that high up in the air and nearly pull the double out, if not for the goal being a bit too small. Boog with a solid center pass attempt.
Okay.
And oh no, nobody's marked Hexy in time, and Terps Esports get a lead.
False is just kind of playing with time. Not much boost to utilize. Tasek's on the retreat. Kevin honestly reads that near enough perfectly. It's Hexy's power generated from the shot hits that so cleanly that it beats the eventual covering run. And with nobody in that part of the net to defend, it was an inevitability. That's a great opening goal for Terps here in game number 2, a much needed reprieve.
I think now you'd start to see not necessarily desperation, but a bit more spacing out here from Pescados. They try to get the passing play working, but Kevin not quite on the same page just yet, and demoed before the takeoff happens on that sidewall. Tasek still gets the center, but False misses. Rare missteps here from Pescados, but it doesn't mean anything. They get the equalizing goal because Kevin just finds the gap.
Yeah, that was a hit the panic button moment. They really struggled in defense. Admittedly, JD Knight was messed about with, had to readjust, and by the time they did readjust, it was a little too late. But they were kind of enemies of themselves in that moment there. Terps Esports, one big clear would have just released the pressure valve. They didn't get it, and they paid the price.
So here we are, all square at one apiece. A bit more familiar territory, perhaps, and a good effort there defensively. Hexy gets demoed for the efforts, but the important part, not conceding just yet with about 2 minutes to play. It's JD to take up 0 boost. Can't get more than an early touch. Controlled well by False over to Kevin. So solid reads on the passing play, but they've left the center open, and Tasek has to make a diving save outward. Both teams similar stature. False over the top, however, and the pace beats out the defensive scramble.
Yeah, it was a real switch up of gears, and it almost went against Pescados, but this is where it really benefits them. False already on their bike upfield. It's a lovely lift over Boog, who's really none the wiser. And because Terps have been caught so off guard by Pescados going truly all sorts of spherical objects to the wall, they really just didn't have any time to react. So really well worked. Go ahead goal. Now can they keep it with just over 90 seconds left?
It's actually an insane touch from False as well. Watching that replay, saved the second jump to get that extra height to go into the ball. Again, things you just can't teach players. They just have to execute when the time calls. Boog over the top, gets out to Hexy on the pass. It ricochets off the defense. Now a scramble at the goal line. False jumps early, and Kevin ducks underneath to guard that near corner. Now Boog racing from it again and gets it to bounce in front, but nobody to tap home. Trusted it to fall in a bit different of a place. A little bit of a pinch from the team connection there. And another pop-up. This is dangerous for Pescados. They're allowing these chances to walk in, but Boog can't put it low enough.
They got the boogie, but they're not quite W-oogieing yet. Wow, that was a real stretch, wasn't it? Almost as much of a stretch as Tasek was going for a shot opportunity there. Backboard, False drop down. No, it's going to be intercepted. Off to the side, JD Knight, the wave dash. Doesn't win the race. It's Tasek. Doesn't get that second touch, of Boog again forced out through the western exit here. Hexy, I should say, sorry. Straight into the hands of Kevin. Again, it's generated a lot of pace this game, but Terps are not able to keep up with it. They're almost trying to think before they act, and that half second of hesitation, Galgan, is costing them.
Yeah, they're letting Tasek walk this one in all the way through again. You just know it's going to happen when Tasek grabs the ball, even with a slight teammate bump at the beginning, goes low against Boog, catches Hexy and JD holding hands on the goal line and pushes it right past them with little to no effort, it seems. It is just that simple for Tasek, and the Pescados are going to walk away here with a 2-0 series lead.
I can't even say it was comfortable. It was nicely operated from Pescados in the end, looking for a fourth just to really pad the stats here. But Terps Esports, they're kind of... Do you know that meme where you've got sort of like the skeleton underneath the water and then you've got the people above water, one smiling and one's kind of struggling to keep afloat? Well, right now, Terps are the ones struggling to keep afloat. Kind of makes sense, honestly, that analogy, given the pescados, they are fish, they are meant to thrive in the water. But even then, they're kind of winning by virtue of simply playing faster than their opponents. The gaps are there to exploit the defense, I feel. It's just that Terps is a little too conservative for my liking. If they took a little bit more risk on the transition, heck, even if they just hit the ball hard upfield to give themselves that space to recoup their boost or to send someone off to try and chase, I feel like that would pay a lot more dividends, at the very least in terms of burning time off the clock and at the most resetting a defense and maybe just getting a transitional play into action.
I agree with you. It does somewhat feel like there's an open invitation for the University of Maryland to try and set their own pace. And there have been moments where, the opportunity arises, they're able to get that push down. And there have been some pretty big missteps. We talked about this in the prior series, mistakes that Boise State were making, not always capitalized on. There's a slight uptick in chances like that for Terps esports. But how much does that really mean in the grand scheme of things if we talk all this hype about what Terps could be doing, and yet they've only scored 2 goals throughout the first 2 games? It's been a very slow crawl offensively for them in a series where they have to be as clinical as possible. It's not enough to just try and brute force down the Pescados defense. You've got to be very creative with how you advance the ball into those offensive chances.
Not even 2 goals, 1 goal. The other one was very much an OG. So it's like, when we look at that goal, was it a confidence boosting goal? It was a pretty simplistic pass in field. It was a decent hit by Hexy, don't get me wrong. But it's not one of those goals that gets me as a caster up out of my chair and I'm like, okay, they've turned up. They're here. It's just a little bit timid, a little bit always wanting to sit at the back of the class, not raise your hand, just get on with the work for the rest of the day. I want to see a little bit more bombastic behavior from this squad. If it means conceding more goals, okay, but you've got to generate something on offense. Otherwise, you're going to stay at that 1 goal scored for yourselves.
Yeah, you mentioned that, and that's kind of where I'm at, is there's one of 2 ways that Terps can go from here. They can either try and be very clinical with the few shot chances that they get, or generate anything and just take any shot that you grab. But you bring up a good point. That does tend to coincide with conceding more because you commit so many resources offensively, you're not ready for the transition. And I don't know if I'm ready to back this Terps esports offense fully against the Pescados, who, if they get the ball in transition, it's going on target, right? So
Sure.
I do need to see a high-scoring game where Terps esports can keep pace before I believe in something like running it down, taking every shot that you possibly can to force Pescados into an awkward situation. I feel like the solution right now leans more towards playing methodically, trying to strip the ball away when you can, not being afraid to give the ball up, but understanding that you therefore can't be afraid to take the ball away. If you give the ball to Tasek in the middle of the field, you can't just sit on the goal line, throw up a quick prayer and hope that all is right in the world. Tasek is probably going to score. You got to do something before a player like Tasek gets to the net.
Yeah, in theory, they could put both of our plans into action. I mean, it's only game 3 that we're going into now, and so in theory, they have this game 3 to play with that more conservative, methodical approach, like you suggest. But then if they lose game number 3, then it's really just worth going for it. The reason why I suggest switching up the tack now is mostly the element of surprise. I think that's what caught Terps out big in game number 2, was Pescados just saying, you know what, the defense doesn't really matter at the end of the day. If we can just play quicker than Terps, 9 times out of 10, we're going to be putting ourselves in an advantageous position. So if Terps come flying out the gates with a completely different style of play, I get the impression that they might get 1 goal, 2 goals, and then maybe they can settle back down into a rotation more comfortable. I just want to see that punchiness early game to give them a leg up.
And listen, they've got a lot of time now to mull this over as we deal with some tech issues on the back end, and we'll get into game 3 as soon as possible. Obviously, they're going to take all this time to not implement a single thing that we're talking about, because we don't know what we're talking about, right? We're just commentators. We're here to say, ha, ball go in net, wow! And, you know, that's pretty much what we do. But I think there are valid points. I feel like, again, it's just this conversation that always comes up with series that go this early on. But I mean, at the start of the series, we were like, these teams evenly matched according to the seeding. They're 9 and 10. They're right next to each other. I feel like the gap has been widening just a little bit for the same reasons that you see in Boise State versus Cal. Pescados don't look too worried about anything that they're doing. And I think that's why you get the own goal in game 1. They feel comfortable enough. Now, I mean, put a pin and a question mark on comfortable enough to own goal to send game 1 into overtime, because I don't know if very many teams can lay claim to a mentality like that. But aside from that, as surely this is getting restarted, Hexy is upside down. There's no, I refuse to believe. Yeah, okay, so they're
just testing. Yeah. Yes, it's all good.
So yeah, not the immediate start for Pescados that they would hope for. But while we wait for them to test the lobby and get everything set, let's have a quick word from our sponsor for the Rally Cry Collegiate Series, the Army National Guard. We'll be right back.
People want to define Gen Z, but that's our job.
I wait tables. But last week, I built a field hospital.
I put out a forest fire.
I stopped 1,000 attackers.
And a natural disaster.
I've saved lives.
And led a team on patrol.
I serve.
Well, I go to school full-time.
While I work full-time.
The greater the challenge, the stronger we become.
We get how uncertain the future is. We've come of age in a complex world, face to face with problems we didn't create. So what's gonna happen next? We are. Because our future is the future. The life we have chosen has prepared us for this. So we're going to build bridges and hospitals in a day. We're going to save families from disasters and feed those left in the cold. We're going to do all this and more because we have an appointment with destiny. We invite you to join us. The next greatest generation is now.
Our generation has a choice. Turn away from the world's problems or chase them down. We refuse to sit back and watch them pass us by. Watch us fly ahead. Rise to every challenge and overcome anything. Watch us become the next greatest generation.
People want to define Gen Z, but that's our job.
I wait tables. But last week, I built a field hospital.
I put out a forest fire.
I stopped 1,000 attackers.
And a natural disaster.
I've saved lives.
And led a team on patrol.
I serve.
Well, I go to school full time.
While I work full time.
The greater the challenge, the stronger we become.
Well, welcome back, folks, to the Rally Cry Collegiate series presented by the Army National Guard, Relic and Gaugan. Currently deep into this quarter-final series between Pescados and Terps Esports. Pescados find themselves 2 games to the good, and we've had a lot to discuss in terms of where Terps Esports can go from here. But let's also pay credit and due diligence to what Pescados are doing themselves. This is by no means a dominant series for them so far. They had a spectacular own goal in game number 1, had to survive an overtime. They had to really go full pelt in game number 2 to try and catch Terps Esports off guard. They've had to work really hard to break down the defense and to get Terps out of their comfort zone.
And so I think that's what we're looking for mostly as we go into the rest of the series, Game 3 and beyond, whatever we get from these two teams. Looking at Terps Esports and thinking, okay, it's been a low shot output so far and more of a clinical approach. Do we see more of the same, which has to be coupled with a strong defensive stance? You've got to be in the face of these Pescados before they get the shot off. Or do you get the complete opposite and just get a barrage of shot after shot from Terps Esports? Take anything that you can get and try to make Pescados as uncomfortable as you can on their defensive end. I feel like I am inclined to believe that we're going to get some more of this clinical gameplay from Terps Esports, and I don't know if that's the solution that I back, but at the same time, you have your identity about this game. You want to try and play your own game because that's what the best Rocket League teams do. They play their own style of Rocket League, and they are not influenced, swayed, or dissuaded off of that by any opponent that they face. Terps Esports, they could find success if they adopt that sort of play style, but I wonder where the stopping line is. I wonder what kind of force they can bring defensively to the Pescados, who seem to be able to weave their way through, and even if the shot isn't on target, they just take chance after chance after chance, and eventually enough of them stick.
Just don't have the ball going to the back of your net. You know, it's really just... That's just the game plan. No, see, okay, in all seriousness, if you're going to play super heavy defense, which is a valid strategy, you are within your rights as a Rocket League team to go safety first. But if you're going to go safety first, if you're going to invite your opponents onto you, you need a hard clearance. You know, you need that. You can't just go like, okay, we're going to defend. Oh, we're going to defend again. You've got to have that 2 steps ahead plan in place. If you know you're going to defend, if you know that you're going to be able to transition quickly, you got to call it out. Somebody's got to be running downfield, or driving, in this case, downfield, ready to, at the very least, challenge for the ball. We covered it before the break. Even at the very least, by challenging for the ball, you're giving your teammates time to refill on the boost tanks, and that can help supplement your next defensive phase. But if you're going to go for minor opportunities every now and again, trying to sucker your opponents into committing too many resources upfield, you know, you've got to have that. You've got to understand. You've got to go down the other side and still score. You know, that's part of winning the game.
Right. I'm going to assume that we are carrying on with the goal on the side of Pescados. Until I receive further notice. I believe there was some issue with starting up the game before everything was sent behind the scenes, and Pescados managed to grab an early goal. I'm assuming that it will stand as scored, and they will have an early lead going into this game. Interesting, but hey, I mean, it's Terps Esports working from being down early, not unfamiliar territory. They'll have to prove themselves from here regardless.
start of the game then for Terps Esports. Rightly or wrongly, they've now got to come from 1-0 behind. However, maybe this is what they need. An early goal down. If it wasn't clear enough, they do have to score again. And then again. Boog, his route out of the orange half was, well, blocked. And unfortunately, Terps Esports very much floundering like the fish that they're playing against. But these fish, mighty minnows, continue to swim upstream, look more likely to put forward a second goal to concede in their own half.
There's some decent proactivity, though, from Terps Esports defensively. It's different from allowing the first player to take the shot and then going for the follow-through. Beautiful effort from Hexy, but Tasek denies at the crossbar. Boog sends back, and Terps Esports, they let it slip through. Now all three players stacked up on one side. It ends up center, but falls. Jumped too quickly, trying to get ahead of the play, and found himself ahead of the ball entirely. Kevin on the follow-through, now false to rotate as Pescados build up that midfield line hold yet again. But another challenge from Boog. Sees them have to back up.
I don't believe
There's
it.
no way.
I don't believe what I'm seeing. In English, folks, Pescados have now scored more own goals than Terps have scored actual goals. It's 1-1. Quite confounding the entire form book. It might be 2. Oh, it's another big save from Kevin.
Explained it well in English. I would attempt it in any other language, but I would fail miserably. But Hexy, speaking the language of Rocket League gods right now, trying to will Terps Esports through to a victory here, and the whole team is cooking up something fantastic, but falls to shut the doors to the refrigerator. Now back the other way, turning on the stovetops here, hooking up some real heat. Pescados trying to bring it to him. It's a square game halfway through, but not for much longer. You knew Tasek would bury it.
Too many cooks in the kitchen, and that last man on the line did not know where to look. Hexy, through the melee, simply had to throw their body at this before Tasek made contact. The entirety of the net at his mercy reestablishes that lead, and well deserved too.
So here go Terps Esports again. University of Maryland playing off the back foot. What can be done? Getting possession stripped away time and time again in the corner. Bumps galore. Kevin doesn't seem to care. Hexy up again. Leaves it for JD. Here's Boog on the follow-through, but False stays ever so patient. Taps it wide to begin with. Was looking for the pass. Maybe could have just thrown one down the mid and scored, but that's a hypothetical. The Pescados will have to back up into their own zone and contemplate, if ever, for a brief moment. Nice touch there. Forces False into action off the back wall, but forcing False into action is only half of the equation. The Pescados still look confident as ever with every kind of hard clearance they attempt.
It's a big couple of 50s there from Hexy, and Boog's able to go up to meet this one as well, but Kevin continues to fall. The momentum runs out of boost and leaves it in the hands of Terps, who've got 90 seconds to find another equalizer. Boog upfield, steals the 100. No, they don't. A little too late to the scene, and now Tasek looks to maneuver himself out over to False, who misses that follow-up touch. Thankfully, Kevin's in tow. Kevin, far post, great save, follow-up, no, big save away from Hexy again.
It's important what they do from here. Bit slow, Pescados, but they still grab the ball. Hexy alone on an island and gets the tap away. Fortunately, nobody immediately on rotation. False goes right under the ball. Nasty work from Boog on low boost. It's not going to mean much, just more or less buying time for the rest of Terps Esports to get into position, get some boost. Doesn't amount to much, however, as Hexy was up early for that challenge, didn't connect. False plays it out of the corner. Tricky ball to deal with. It ends up right down the central lane, and here comes Hexy. It's a wide open net, and it has enough pace. We're all tied.
This one ain't an own goal. This is just a redirect. I promise you, good sirs and madams and MV friends out there. Hexy, it was on target. It is legit. It is his second goal of the series. He's the only Terps Esports to score a legitimate goal. What an important one this could be, though. Just over 40 seconds left as we kick off, and it's all tied.
A sec to get it started for Pescados. Kevin is waiting in the wings right down Broadway. False instead will be the first one to the ball. Goes sidewall for a bit of a redirect. Doesn't connect. JD plays it off. and collects well, but Tasek again with a block. The midfield line is prominent here for Pescados. Couple of misses off the back wall, and Tasek gets another chance, but can't connect that dominus. Put back by Kevin. One last chance to center this one up as Pescados continue the offensive onslaught. Tasek gifted one right down at the top of the box. False puts it to the bar. The double is just barely in and out, but Tasek secures it, and Pescados to go up by 3.
Hexy, as soon as he went infield, he was asking for trouble, and it was served up on a platter. It has cost his team big time. It's a kickoff goal, or it's a third game in the bin. Boog, it's set up beautifully, but no one's there to follow up. Pulse takes control, drives downfield, thrown away by JD Knight onto the backboard, lifted up by Hexy, but him and Boog were tripping over each other's shoelaces. Hexy with another mistake spikes it instead of lifts it. And the spirits are going to be lifted now, Galgan. They need to be lifted because it's reverse sweep or nothing.
And it just feels like too little, too late. But at the same time, we finally get what feels like the most complete game out of this Terps esports roster. They stuck with that fight. Even, I mean, consider the fact that they essentially started this game down 1 goal from the drop because of the mishap that happened before this. They had to fight through that adversity. They did manage to do so, found some passing plays of their own, tried to disrupt what Pescados were up to. But all of this effort just to drop another game and have to win 4 on the trot. Couldn't have said it better myself. Reverse sweep territory. The mental has to regain quickly here in the most matter-of-fact way.
Yeah, I need to see more from Knight and Boog, quite frankly. No goals for either of them. And as much as that mistake in isolation from Hexy looks completely egregious, at the same time, when you are the only person who has scored legitimately for your team, I know Boog has technically got one through the own goal in game number 1, but to be the only player who seems like they can convert down the other side of the field, the weight of the team's on your shoulders. They're looking to you and they're thinking, you're going to be the one to save us. And you know, he makes that one mistake, and I think they're kind of forced into it because they didn't have much boost to work with. They were attacking it from the opposite angle, so they were going inwards anyway, and there was no support. Everybody panics, and we saw what happened. So we need to see more from, again, the 2 teammates here. Support him, offer options to him, and maybe, just maybe, we'll see this extend to potentially Game 5 and beyond.
So the game plan feels laid out for the University of Maryland. Get everybody involved on those early chances. It can be tough, and it can be, you know, pretty easy just to sit back and say, let's just take a shot, see where it ends up, and then follow through. See if we can get a second, see if we can get a third. But if you draw up that play involving everybody on the first opportunity, or even on the second, just getting everyone in that rotation, making sure that nobody's lagging behind. Try not to have your third person in the rotation scared to push up, because that's a very understandable feeling against a team like Pescados. If you want to leave someone back just in case the counterattack is coming right back at you. But at a certain point, you've got to take that step forward. And we saw glimpses of it here from Maryland, but it needs to be consistent the whole way through, where every single chance they get feels like there are multiple players involved. They've got a decent shot of making something happen, whether it's on the direct shot, on a rebound, on a midfield hold. Pescados have shown you how to hold the midfield. You've got to take a page out of their book and keep this offensive possession going.
Well, it's do or die for Terps esports. Admittedly, they do still go home with 10 points, so it's not exactly nothing, but to be 4-0 swept against, going into this season, your closest rivals, it's going to hurt big time. Again, those seedings have already shifted. You said it well yourself, Galgan. We look at UT Dallas down seeded in 14th. I think we can all agree that they are certainly rated a little higher than that now. But Terps, the ratings don't matter. The results do. They need a goal, and they need it for their own sakes.
So they take to the field, hopefully not for the last time, as the first minute has come and gone for the most part. Hexy, no boost, fake it till you make it, and certainly has 2 gone. They rotate back through. No immediate push. Boog tries to put it off the back wall, and another double commit from Pescados. But the pass goes to the midfield where nobody was quite ready to receive. Boog again gets it past so many players from Pescados, but Tasek blocks it anyway, sent to the backboard. And chance after chance for Terps Esports right now is just getting what feels like the entire Pescados team to commit to everything, not immediately find the ball, but yet no definitive scoring chance. It's brought right back as if the sequence never happened.
I'm taking this opportunity to take a little more closer look at Knight and Boog, and it feels that they're far more reactive than proactive, and you can see where the problem therefore lies. With Hexy, he's trying to encourage his 2 teammates to latch onto passes in field, or even better, to create for him, but they're simply not providing the goods as of yet. Meanwhile, Pescados, every single player looking for that opportunity to go for a sneaky double tap, to go for an infield pass. This, for example, the best that we've seen really, but Boog, far too late to the party. Tasek was making that save all day long, down the other side, set up on a plate, and it's Hexy that snuffs it.
You can really see the difference, though. Terps Esports have to race to the ball as quickly as possible. No bump for false on the Boog, but sent back by Kevin. Immediate response by JD, screaming from that top corner. Tasek goes to false, rotating out, though. Not going to find the boost immediately as Server Cam struggles to keep up with that intense midfield battle. Demolitions involved. Kevin trying to squeak this one out. It's another big clearance for Pescados. They don't look too phased. Still haven't found the back of the net. But again, I don't think they're particularly worried at this stage, although the passing plays keep up. The Terps Esports like that to clear the zone, you've got a little bit to be concerned about.
Oh, you know that the concern is real when a Rule 1 is immediately denied. Oh, that's not fallen kindly at all. JD Knight backs up the caboose and gets a crucial touch in there. Boom. It's not great for Hexy, is it? Almost has to fly backwards to make any sort of forward touch. It's a good challenge from JD Knight, but falls again kindly to Pescados. When it rains, it most certainly pours. Speaking of Hexy, oh, Knight completely floats it, but Boog does not. Up high in the sky, no follow-up, and Terps get away with it again.
Such a necessary save in the closing moments of Game 4. It feels like a pebble when it comes to the mountain of this series, but Pescados continue to push and don't find what they're looking for just yet. 80 seconds to play. Off the ceiling goes false, and it's a block, sure, but it's not in a great position for Pescados to keep that push alive. So Boog goes back the other way to the corner. JD picks it up, forces the early save and a jump. Everybody from Pescados pushed up here, using all their resources just to get this ball cleared back through Stolen, but Boog alone back at the top of the box again, sent to the corner out of desperation, but 1 minute to play. Maryland have kept it scoreless for now, but they've got to take that first step.
Singing to the hymn sheet of Elton John. It's all pinball wizard out here for the Terps Esports defense. More chaos theory than anything. They land on each other, and Hexy gets up quickly enough. Big save at the top post there for JD Knight as well. False was hoping to leave it for a friend, and no friend was on the line to call. Finally, Kevin steps in, but Boog, that is a crucial touch away yet again. But the recycling continues. So efficient. It's wide. A save registered for JD Knight. Hexy, it's another challenge win. These 50s continually fall in favor of the blue team. Is it a matter of when, not if?
Oh, false up towards the back wall. Can't get it to go. Pescados with a big offensive hold. Tasek with another block. Boog wants to pry this one free and does. Catches all of Pescados pushed up at the midfield line. This could be the closing chance for Terps Esports to get a game win in the series. But the Pescados of Fisher University, they find their way out. We're going to overtime.
Start the engine. It is the last chance saloon out the garage once again. Kevin, that's over the head of False. Hexy, not going to get past Kevin again. They just have this uncanny knack of finding a piece of the ball that stops Terps Esports from getting downfield. JD Knight, that's a miscue. JD Knight still lurking. Up, it's a pop-up that's decent enough over one, but there's Tasek, not on target. Hexy round the corner. False again gets a piece of it. JD Knight's got to go quick. Off-fieldist. It needed height, and there was absolutely none. Kevin all on his own flip reset. Big interference, disruption play.
That's a sequence where Terps Esports throw everything they've got on the ball just to get it clear, but have they done enough? False double flip reset. Bottom corner saved away. Tasek looking for a center pass and pulls it off the back wall just to get it done. Tries to lead it out to Kevin, who barely grabs a piece of it with the Octane to send it back, and there's the dagger. False makes it a sweep. It's a hard-fought effort to close the series out, but the Fisher College Pescados advance to the semifinals.
There was zero confidence in that defense, Galgan. When all the chips were laid down on the table, it was a solo standard special, a triple commit effectively, 2 going for the ball initially, 1 missing the ball as it fell potentially into the palm of their hands. That's the sort of mistake that they didn't need in a moment where they had to score that golden goal to keep themselves alive. Again, we got to credit Pescados. The longer that series went on, the more in control they seemed. And that's in spite of Terps making it very tetchy, very difficult, very nerve-wracking in the early stages.
And it's a series where Maryland is going to look back and think what could have been. We talked about it going in. Seeding is close. This is supposed to be one that is incredibly crucial to their push, not only for this weekend, but for points to make playoffs, get themselves a better seed. Now they're going to have to reconsider their approach and what they think their ceiling well and truly is, because some of these games, some of these sequences stayed very close. Whether or not that was by the hand of the Fisher College Pescados, that's up to interpretation. You go back to game 1 with the own goal and whatnot, but at the end of the day, as we take a look at some of the plays that transpired over this, so many sequences for the Pescados of Fisher College just looked so locked down. They never really had a moment of doubt of where the ball went, and bang, what an own goal. I mean, you gotta admit, it's kind of beautiful when you watch it back.
When the highest quality goal that Terps technically scored was an own goal by one of the opposition, like that's alarm bells for me already. And actually, in the end, Terps scoring as many goals as their opponents did own goals. Offense was a real problem for them, and I wish I could say it was because of the Pescados defense, but it really wasn't. They struggled to grab a hold of the midfield at any point really in any of the 4 games, even the games where it was relatively close, where Pescados were struggling and were forced into taking more risks to get those go-ahead goals. It never felt like Terps were ever truly in with a chance of taking the game themselves. And look, now they've had this dose of medicine. They got to take it, they got to understand it, and then they've got to come back with the answer to the prescription next week. I don't think they're in any trouble of not qualifying for the playoffs if they continue making the quarters as they have this time around, but we don't know how many teams are turning up next week. We don't know how many teams are turning up in week number 4. We don't know how the bracket's even going to be laid out, Galgan. They need to pick up as many points as they can, and that means adjustments going into week number 3.
And talk about adjustments. I mean, look at what we're seeing right here.
Yeah.
44 shots on target for Pescados and 29 saves for Terps Esports. You can say what you want about the defense working overtime to get as many saves as possible, but at a certain point, you cross the threshold of, is the defense playing really well, or does the defense have to play for an extended period of time? I think that's what you end up getting here with Terps Esports and their performance in this series. Hats off to them for making it as competitive as they could, but clearly the Fisher College Pescados a step ahead here in this particular series. They advance to the semifinals with a confident 4-0 sweep over those University of Maryland Terps Esports players. When we take a look at the bracket here, Relic sets up for some really spicy semis tomorrow.
Most certainly. So Boise State, who we saw 4-0 in Cal earlier in the day, they are going to be going up against Pescados. And I gotta say, I feel for Pescados there. They've done really well to get a 4-0. I doubt they're going to have it as easy tomorrow. But we also got to talk about that lower side of the bracket. UT Dallas at it again. I love these guys. I adore these guys and how chaotic they are, completely throwing seeding to the wind. They've got themselves a really, really interesting match going up against Southern Miss Coca-Cola, though, of course, our highest seeded team if you take into account last week's action. Of course, they were the runners-up, although significantly so, only able to take one game off Oklahoma Christian, but it's a fresh slate. They have a chance to go through and win themselves, and we will find out if they do tomorrow, and it will be roughly the same time, of course, midday Pacific. That roughly turns out as 3 p.m. Eastern. Figure out your own time zones. Google is available, as are other search engines. Not sponsored, by the way. Any final thoughts going into tomorrow, Galgan? Any favorites for you?
Oh, this is tough to call because I feel like, obviously you can say what you want about the unknown quantity in Boise State here, technically having the least points of our 4 semifinalists going into tomorrow's competition. But come on, I mean, it's hard not to favor Boise State moving into it. I'm sure both semifinals will be fantastic, the grand final as well. There's plenty on the line. All of these teams are fighting for a higher spot. Southern Miss Coca-Cola with a chance to jump to the very top of the table. Everybody else at least securing third with a decent enough finish. There's a lot on the line for these teams tomorrow, Raleigh.
Most certainly is, and we hope that you will be there to join us, by the way. TTV, Rally Cry 2. We'll see you tomorrow, fingers crossed, from Galgan, from myself. We wish you a very warm goodbye.